So those are policies that come from the ground up to respond to the American majority that says we're proud to be Americans. We're proud of what we've done, and we'll continue to do it. But you're not going to walk over us. And our elected officials are going to stand with us on that issue. And we expect our president to do the same. And we're not going to be ruled by the law of the sea. We're not going to look to foreign courts to find our policy in court decisions. We're not going to accept that. You know, I would love to see, and I'm willing to be part of that. When we see a court, and if you've read the Constitution, you understand there is only one court required. And I'll get you next. I don't want your arm to go to sleep. There is only one court required in this country, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court, as far as the federal court. And it says that certain cases as deemed necessary by the Congress, they can establish a system of inferior federal courts. But it also says that judges and entire courts can be done away with. For the reason of what? Bad behavior. And I believe bad behavior is when a justice of the Supreme Court or a judge in the federal courts violates the Constitution. Now I'm going to have to prove that. If I go to the well of the floor of the House and I make a motion to remove Judge X from the 6th Circuit Court, I'm going to have to prove it, yes. But I think if enough of us in Congress are willing to take those steps and say we will not be overrun by just one branch of our three-branch government, because that's not how it is to be. We make the laws. You carry them out. You don't make law. And when you have a federal court, a Supreme Court, split 5-4 on the Second Amendment most recently, wow. Stepped off my soapbox. Yes, sir. I think this one question, and we need to let the shopkeeper go home too. Yeah.
Okay, I have actually two concerns, one to dovetail what she said here, but a comment about what we can do. One of the things I did is I canceled my membership in ARP because I had some conversation with them about Obamacare, and I think they sold seniors down the tubes on it. So I canceled my membership. That's the thing you can do. That the government's not involved in that is we as individuals can do. We hold people to the fire and organizations to the fire that they act and react the way we think they should. So that's one thing we can do on our own. I've had this concern about the UN and our sovereignty, and a couple of things like the cap and trade along with the global warming. There was a big meeting, and there was going to be some treaty. And then I've read where Hillary Clinton is signing a treaty dealing with arms that's going to affect our ownership of guns potentially, and that it could actually supersede our own laws if the Senate goes along and passes.
The Senate, that's the key.
Yeah, it's the Senate has to turn it down. So it's like they're running an end run like the Democrats have been doing right along with the Obamacare and everything else they've done. Another end run using the UN. And I'm concerned that, you know, we fund the UN, and what they do is they never back our position. Absolutely. And I'd like to hear, that's my concern, I'd like to hear a comment on that. Another one is the Federal Reserve. You mentioned Ron Paul. Ron Paul would like to maybe force the Federal Reserve to be audited and to see what's going on. We've got private banking industry running our economic system, and I'm concerned about that. I read that in 1913, the dollar, and this is when the Federal Reserve was created, and if you look at that value of the dollar, it's like about 2.5 to 3 cents compared to what it was in 1913. And it seems like the Federal Reserve is just stealing our money through inflation. And it's being aided by the Democrats with all their spending. So those are two comments I have. I'd like you to touch on each of those. Well, I'm fired up about a lot of other things.
I mean, what's neat is the research that's being done by citizens now. I mean, just for you to be able to rattle all that off and be able to communicate, I'm certain, with members of the legislature and members of Congress, and hold their feet to the fire on those issues that they may not even research themselves as of yet. I've made a commitment to sign on, if given the opportunity to represent you, to a bill that would require an audit, an independent audit of the Federal Reserve. We ought to. We don't know exactly what they're doing,
Exactly.
what their policy, or what's in place. I will commit to that. As far as the UN and the issues that go on there, that is again why elections matter. Because if the Senate is ever in a situation where they can approve certain of these treaties that would take away our authority, our power, our freedoms, we are in deep trouble.